A soft laugh. You're quick as ever. They've signed out one of the auxiliary training gyms. Aizawa straightened. At this hour. They've been there for almost an hour already, Nezu continued. Full combat, quirks enabled. Silence. Aizawa stared at the wall, mind replaying the day's assessments. The lack of fatigue, the way neither boy had slowed down even after fighting him. They're still training, Aizawa muttered. Yes, Nezu said lightly, which is why I thought you might want to come see. Aizawa exhaled slowly, irritation and something uncomfortably close to concern knotting in his chest. Send me the gym number, he said. The call ended a second later. Aizawa was already on his feet. The training gym doors slid open with a hiss. Heat poured out. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and scorched concrete, energy crackling so intensely it made the lights flicker faintly. Aizawa stepped inside and stopped. Bakugu was midair, explosions detonating in tight, controlled bursts that launched him sideways instead of upward. He twisted, using recoil to avoid a streak of gold that tore through the space where his head had been a second earlier. Midoriya moved like a flash of living momentum. Not wild, not uncontrolled. Precise. Every step shattered the floor beneath him, but his balance never wavered. He redirected his own speed with minute shifts of posture, turning raw force into devastating angles. He didn't chase Bakugo. He hunted him. Bakugu laughed, sharp, breathless, exhilarated, as he slammed his palms together and detonated another blast, driving himself straight at Midoriya instead of away. They collided. The impact cracked the reinforced floor. Aizawa's eyes widened despite himself. They separated instantly, neither yielding ground, neither showing signs of exhaustion. Sweat soaked their uniforms. Muscles screamed. They didn't stop. They couldn't stop. Aizawa felt a familiar heaviness settle in his chest. They weren't training because they were obsessed with strength. They were training because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering 7 years of lies, neglect, pressure, and survival. Aizawa leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes sharp behind his goggles. You idiots, he murmured. Not angry. Concerned. Because what he saw wasn't two students pushing themselves for glory. It was two powerhouses who had never learned how to rest, only how to endure. And if no one stopped them, they would burn themselves down long before any villain ever got the chance. Aizawa didn't interrupt them. At first, he told himself it was because stopping a live quirk exercise without warning was dangerous. Then he told himself it was because Nezu would want data. Eventually, he stopped lying to himself and simply watched. Minutes bled into hours. The clock on the far wall ticked past midnight. Bakugu's explosions grew sharper, not bigger. Short, brutal bursts that snapped his body through the air like a weaponized ricochet. Midoriya answered with speed so dense it bent perception, gold energy threading his muscles as he redirected momentum with frightening precision. They hit their quirk limits almost simultaneously. Aizawa saw it instantly. Bakugu's palms smoked, skin raw and red, micro tears weeping blood where sweat and nitroglycerin had burned too long. Midoriya's breathing stuttered, golden light flickering erratically as his body screamed for restraint he ignored. They didn't stop. They adapted. The explosions cut out. The gold dimmed. And the fight became something else entirely. Hand to hand. Close, fast, lethal. Aizawa straightened slowly, heart thudding once hard. This wasn't training anymore. They moved faster now than they had against him. No hesitation, no spacing, just raw animal efficiency. Elbows slammed into ribs, knees cracked against thighs. Hands snapped for joints, throats, pressure points. Attacks meant to end fights, not win them. Bakugu drove Midoriya into a pillar, forearm across his throat. Midoriya twisted, slipped free, and countered with a strike that would have shattered a villain's jaw. They didn't pull their blows. They trusted each other to survive them. Aizawa's blood ran cold. They were holding back against me. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. Not out of disrespect. Out of instinct. They didn't see him as a life or death threat. They saw him as an asterisk teacher. But with each other, there were no lies. No masks. No limits beyond what their bodies could endure. They circled each other now, breathing hard, eyes bright and feral. Sweat and blood streaked their faces. The floor was a ruin of cracks and scorch marks. Aizawa felt like he was watching two apex predators settle dominance, without killing each other only, because killing wasn't the point. Survival was. Growth was. They hadn't noticed him. Not once. They were too focused on the fight, on reading micro-movements, on pushing reaction time to its breaking point. The world outside that gym didn't exist to them. Aizawa's fingers curled slowly into his scarf. This is what 7 years of being underestimated does, he thought grimly. Not arrogance. Not recklessness. But a need to prove, over and over, that they were still standing. Aizawa didn't know how much longer he let them go before stepping in. He only knew one thing for certain as he watched them clash again, faster and more dangerous than before. If anyone ever forced these two to stop holding back completely, there wouldn't be a battlefield left behind. There would be a crater. What felt like hours of nonstop violence finally slowed. Not because one of them won. Because their bodies simply could not give any more. Bakugo swayed first, breath coming out in ragged pulls, blood running from a split brow down the side of his face. Midoriya wasn't in any better shape, bruises blooming dark and ugly across his ribs, one arm hanging stiffly at his side, fingers trembling from strain. And still, they didn't fall. Bakugo's hand shot out, gripping the front of Midoriya's torn uniform. Midoriya did the same, fingers locking into Bakugo's sleeve like a lifeline. They leaned into each other, foreheads almost touching, chests heaving in the same broken rhythm. Holding each other up. Trusting, without hesitation, that the other wouldn't let go. Aizawa felt something cold and heavy settle deep in his chest. This isn't rivalry, he realized. This is partnership. They were sweaty, bloody, exhausted beyond anything a first year should ever experience. But neither of them looked panicked. Neither of them tried to pull away. They fought at full capacity, with quirks without quirks, with intent that would have crippled anyone else. And yet not once had they crossed the line. They had known. Every strike, every dodge. Every moment they shifted pressure or eased it by a fraction. Perfectly timed, perfectly matched. Like they could read each other's thoughts, anticipate decisions before they were made. A mind-reading quirk, Aizawa thought distantly. That's what it looks like. But he knew better. This was something far more unsettling. Years of shared pain, shared training, shared survival. They didn't need to communicate because they'd already learned each other down to instinct and breath. They knew exactly how far the other could be pushed and exactly when to stop. Midoriya exhaled shakily, a tired, breathless laugh escaping him. "You're still a jerk." Bakugo huffed out something that might have been a laugh. "Shut up, nerd." Neither sounded angry. Aizawa stepped forward then, boots crunching softly over broken concrete. They both froze instantly. Not in fear. In awareness. They straightened as much as they could manage, releasing each other slowly. But only once they were sure neither would collapse. Even then, they stayed close, shoulders brushing. Aizawa stopped a few feet away. For once, he had no immediate lecture ready. He looked at them, really looked. Two children who had been forced to grow into weapons before anyone bothered to protect them. Two students who trusted each other more than their own limits. Two powerhouses who didn't fight to dominate, but to sharpen one another. Aizawa swallowed. "You're done," he said quietly. "Both of you." They didn't argue. Bakugo wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. Midoriya nodded, eyes dull with exhaustion but still sharp with awareness. As Aizawa turned to escort them out, one thought echoed relentlessly in his mind. If these two ever turned that trust outward, toward a team, toward civilians, toward the world, they wouldn't just be heroes. They would be unstoppable. And for the first time that night, Aizawa Shouda wasn't just scared of what they were. He was afraid of what would have happened if no one had ever noticed them at all. Aizawa barely had time to process his own thoughts before the doors to the training gym slid open again. Soft footsteps. The rattle of wheels. Midnight pushed a small trolley into the gym, hair tied loosely back, eyes half-lidded with sleep. She wasn't in her hero costume, just a plain shirt and dark pants, sleeves rolled up like she'd thrown them on without thinking. Honestly, she yawned, rubbing at one eye, I knew if anyone was going to be awake at this hour, it'd be you, Eraser. Behind her, Nezu padded in quietly, already alert, eyes sharp despite the hour. On the trolley sat neatly folded spare clothes, towels, bottled water, electrolyte packs, and protein bars. Prepared. Of course he was. Bakugo stiffened instantly. Midoriya did too, instinctively trying and failing to straighten up more. We didn't break anything important, Bakugo muttered. Midnight blinked at them, then at the wrecked gym. The shattered floor, scorched walls, cracked pillars. She sighed. Define asterisk important asterisk. Nezu hopped up onto the edge of the trolley, tail flicking. Structural integrity remains within acceptable margins, he said cheerfully. Though the repair staff will be thrilled asterisk. Aizawa crossed his arms. You planned this. Nezu smiled. I anticipated asterisk it. Midnight's gaze softened as she looked at the boys properly. At the blood, the bruises, the way they were still standing only because they refused to let themselves fall. Her teasing expression faded. You two look awful, she said gently. Midoriya flushed weakly. Sorry. For what? She replied, already handing them towels. For surviving. She pushed the trolley closer. Sit, drink, eat now. Bakugo hesitated for exactly half a second, then obeyed, dropping heavily onto a bench. Midoriya followed, movements careful, controlled despite the tremor in his hands. Midnight handed them water bottles and knelt briefly to check Bakugo's hands, then Midoriya's ribs, professional despite the sleep still clinging to her. Your lucky recovery girl's stubborn, she muttered.